So after nearly about 8 months or however long E3 was last year, I'll say about yeah, about 8 months around sounds right. We finally got our release date, or at least the North American release date, if I'm gonna go by this. Crash Bandicoot N Sane Trilogy will be available on the 30th of June to this year.
Hmm. I know what I'm getting for my birthday.
That and a PS4.
But yeah, so at least I've got an excuse to get one.
And with that, we also got some screenshots showing Crash Bandicoot 2, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah, so we're getting nearer. We're getting there now. Along with the announcement, there was also a little blog post on Activision's website telling a little bit more info about the game, and particularly I'll just paraphrase some of the things I've said. I mean, particularly one of them is, why did you wait now to tell us, to talk to you? Which, yeah, I can see that Activision doing that.
As always.
Yeah, cheap joke. But now, generally, it's like, making sure that the game is ready and workable in time for the system. And particularly, actually, when I was on Twitter, where they were announcing it, there's actually an image from Death Stranded of the main character holding a Crash toy in his hand, which is probably that's the best analogy for most Crash fans for the last few years. Is basically we've been waiting this long for something, and now we're finally getting somewhere nearer to what we want.
The thing is, it's not far off of what you do.
Exactly. I'm just thinking, just replace me with that guy, and then there
You
you go.
replace Norman Reedus with Nikki, and there you go.
There you go. So then again, whether you would want to see me in a horror-filled game with Guillermo del Toro, that's a different question. But
And Hideo Kojima, because we can assume what the hell that's going to be like.
yeah, well, we can do a whole podcast. Well, maybe we might do. We might do an IB on Kojima one day, but we'll stick with Crash. Uh, so yeah, I mean, a couple of things have been here. Particularly, one good bit here is that some of the artists have said, "What has been your favorite level to redesign?" And particularly one of them, Aaron Tustin. I hope I said his name right. And Jennifer Lee said stuff like the Future Frenzy and the prehistoric level. And these are all for Crash 3, so we don't know exactly what they're going to look like. But I'm going to be interested because they go into talking about, how they tried to recreate the look of the original, but update it with, making the future level look even brighter and more colorful, and the reflection in the window.
I can only assume that is going to be one hell of a level of eye candy.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, the whole point of Crash 3 is that you're going back in time where Cortex is trying to revert history to his own liking.
Hmm. I mean, that'll because Crash 3 has the best graphics out of the entire trilogy, so that will just be like the most fun one to play through. I'm not saying that Crash 1 and 2 aren't, just to say Crash 1, oh, hey, here's all this, looks really good, then Crash 2, better gameplay, but same locales.
I mean, look,
Even though we now get a hoverboard and a jetpack
I
for
mean, really,
for a total of 2 levels.
yeah. Sorry, I was going to say the funny thing with the three Crash games is that they have the distinctive visual aspects. I mean, Crash 1 is primarily, Aztec jungle, ancient ruin sort of area into, industrial area, Cortex's castle. 2 is more bits of jungle, snow, sewer, other, high places and in space. And then Crash 3 is basically like, let's just go ballistic. Let's just go through time, the past, present, future, Atlantis,
Great Wall
all
of
that.
China.
So it's basically like, let's just go. We've done as much as we can in that one setting. Let's just go crazy.
I wonder how many people are going to pick up this game and are going to go straight to Crash 3 to play that,
Okay.
rather than being sensible and actually playing it from the beginning.
Again, I'm kind of curious whether you'll have the option to play all through the games right from the get-go, or whether
Well,
you have to
I
say,
won't be surprised if we do the same thing with like every other like HD trilogy or HD collection, like Jack and Daxter collection. You can play
yeah,
any of the games whenever. But I just like it kind of feels like I don't know, a bit irresponsible to go like, okay, here's Jack 1, 2, and 3. Let's go straight into Jack 3. I feel
yeah.
a bit irresponsible on that end.
Hmm. Yeah, some of it. Again, I don't know how they're going to do it unless. I mean, part of me is thinking because they do talk particularly about like maybe there'll be DLC for this, and maybe there may be like an achievement for saying that if you play the games in order, you'll unlock certain things later on.
Maybe. I'm just hopefully the game Crash 1 isn't as hard as it is.
No, I mean they're definitely making they're making that a big deal. They're saying, yeah, Crash One will be easier to play. The part of me is wondering about how is Road to Nowhere going to play out because there was one trick I remember doing, and I don't know if everybody else did this, but there was a trick of getting Crash onto the road on just this side of the the rope area when you.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You walk across the rope and you pretty much can skip all the hardest parts.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm interested to see whether or not they will allow that to happen in the remake, or whether they'll make sure, or probably they'll have a system where you can't do it. But I'll love it if they could, and there's a little achievement saying taking the easy way out or something like that. That would be a fun
T-
thing.
no, taking the high road.
Taking the high road, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Then again, I won't be surprised if they do keep it in because the team who made the Ocarina of Time 3D remake kept a lot of the bugs and glitches in because that's what the game was like. So
Yeah,
anyway, Crash Bandicoot N Sane Trilogy, which I guarantee is going to be a million seller. It's going to be platinum by the time about a week later, since a lot of people now have PS4s, Slims, and Pros,
exactly. When they're working.
and yeah, and every single one has been a PlayStation fanboy, and it probably still has the original trilogy on their shelves. I have 2/3 of the trilogy because I can't find a cheap copy of Crash One.
There you go.
Well,
Uh,
one that one that actually isn't the greatest hits one, even though the other two are greatest hits versions.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, there's a few other things on this blog. One of them was talking particularly about actually, one thing we should mention is actually they've announced the voice cast for the characters. Now, we've already talked about that Jess and Lex are reprising the roles Crash and Cortex, but we get the full list of all the other characters. So I'm just going to go quickly through. Sorry for getting the names wrong, so maybe Dan will show them up on screen. For instance, Dingodile, Koala Con, and Komodo are going to be voiced by Fred Tassiska. How have I said that? I'm not particularly sure who that person is, but it's probably a voice actor. Coco's going to be played by Debbie Derry Berry. Sorry, everybody. She's reprising her role again. She's also doing Tawana, surprisingly enough. So they've already said like Tawana may have a bit more to do in this game. I mean, in the intro scene, you see her take out one of the lab's assistants, so she at least doing something.
Yeah, hopefully get more of an insight as to why in lore why she left Crash in between 1 and 2.
And that would be nice if there's an Easter egg. Again, I'm not sure exactly how. Again, we've already know that the cutscenes are going to stick mostly to what we know, but they're going to add little jokes or Easter eggs in there. So maybe they'll do a gag of maybe there's a photo of, Tawana running off a pinstripe or something at the end of Crash 1 or something.
Maybe.
So, yeah. Greg Eagles, Aku Aku, so it's Grim from Grim Bunches of Billy and Mandy. Dwight Schultz, this is the guy who actually played Bundal in Chowder, so he's playing Papu, and some of the lab assistants. Interesting enough, Embryo already knows played by Marcel Lamachin. This is basically the brain from Pinky and the Brain. John DiMaggio is back as Uka Uka, and
which is hilarious.
Exactly. He's also voicing Tiny Tiger this time around, which I think because in Titans it was actually voiced by Nunnal North, which I think he was Nunnal North. No, actually, he played Engine. I just remembered.
Yeah,
so
Nunnal North played Engine.
Exactly. So Nathan Drake played a crazy madman with a missile stuck in his head. So there you go. There's another Crash little thing. And Conley Bunton is playing Engine, Trophy, and Baby Cortex. Bit of a spoiler for some people. That's basically the end of Crash 3, where you end up defeating Uka Uka and Cortex again, getting both the crystals and gems. They end up being sucked into prehistoric history, and both him and Trophy are tiny babies fighting over Uka Uka. So there you go. So they're definitely keeping that ending in mind. A few other things, I mean, basic stuff like, how's the soundtrack going to be done? It's pretty much the same composition, but of course, high definition, you can do more sound. Again, they've said, is it a remaster or a remake? They kind of say this is a AAA remaster because, essentially we want to make this game as much as what it was before, using the original Tremity from the game, what Sony provided with them, and just updating it with all the new tech. And particularly one funny comment here, this is quite a good one, is talking about, are Crash's infamous, is he wearing shorts or jorts or jeans? This is basically, what is Crash exactly wearing?
He's wearing turnips. It looks like, to me, it's a tracksuit with turnips. Exactly. Either that or it's one of those like kind of stretchy pair of jeans that has a cord.
Exactly. I mean, that's always the thing with Crash's look, because when you think about it, if you think of him dressing up as Crash yourself, all you really need is Nike shoes and paint yourself orange with a mohawk.
Yeah, I'm trying to grab the one of my Crash games. It's like the original Crash design had normal genes,
Yeah.
and it just kind of later in tag team racing he has
Over the years,
kneecaps.
if you look at the design of Crash, it changed as well. You know, they did change the trousers to be either more like either short or jeans looking. Although this one, it looks more like sort of the. Funny enough, actually, even though I'm a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, I have, surprisingly enough, in my lifetime dressed more like Crash by wearing comfy trousers on inside the house. So if anything, I'm probably more like him in terms of a lifestyle than anybody else in gaming. So there you go. You know, in some ways I like to be in my own head. It's like I have the ambitions to be like Sonic the Hedgehog, but I'm more like Crash Bandicoot.
All right, so we'll come back to this once me and him actually get the game on June 30th this year. We'll give our thoughts and possibly review.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, expect a lot of joy, some minor quibbles, and maybe a big rant, depending on how the game goes.
Right, we'll see you in 6 months then.